Good evening and welcome to everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube. And good evening, especially to our wonderful live audience who are here right now. We are going to look at Nebuchadnezzar's dream, part two. I'm not finishing tonight, but this is part two of three. The third part should be the conclusion, God willing. Today is June 13th, 2025. And press a space bar, right? We are going to continue from last week in our efforts to build up the skills and capabilities of our people. There are a couple of questions that we will ask to get that going. And based on a little drive I've been on, forcing ourselves to recall information that we learned, forcing ourselves to recall it is a big part of the learning process. The learning process requires as much recall as input, or maybe even in some cases more recall, because we'd have to recall information years after learning it. Too often we get carried away with the input phase of learning, inputting information by reading or listening, and we neglect the recall phase. So please don't sabotage your personal growth. Do a lot of recall exercises. Do recall exercises regularly. That's why we're supposed to have been doing the daily verse recitals. That's why I've been encouraging people to do that since January. Okay. As we're looking into this here, do you remember? I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Do you remember the lead up story to Daniel's revelation of the dream? The whole story. And that would be in Daniel 2, everything up to verse 30. Do you remember the composition of the statue? What was the statue made of? Those of you here live, think about it. Can you name the materials of the statue? In order, of course. And the parts. Can you remember? And I think this one is the hardest of all. If you remember the lead up, if you remember the statue, the dream, sorry, if you remember the composition of the statue, the materials, what they are, right? In terms of is the head, shoulders, the toes, the ankles, what it was. And do you remember what each material and part, body part, what they represent in terms of which empire or which kingdom they represent? That's a nice little test. We could probably do that test tomorrow in 40 days on Saturday. Somebody remind me of that because you know I'll forget. But there's a chronological progression. We're going to compare the empires here and start with the materials. Chronological progression as we start from the top of the statue and we go lower. So even in the statue and the materials, there is order. God is a God of order. The materials represent the qualities of the empires. So when we look at them, the materials would be gold, silver, bronze, iron, and the feet, iron mixed with clay. We haven't done the feet. Let's ignore the feet for now. Let's deal with the top 4 because the feet empire, we've not seen it yet. We, today, June 13th, 2025, can look back in history and say we've seen the gold, silver, bronze, and iron empires. Okay? We can. For Daniel, he was living in the gold empire. So he would not have seen the others to come. Actually, I think Daniel saw the silver. Yeah, Daniel saw the silver empire. He definitely didn't see the bronze or the iron, right? Now, when we look at that list, gold, silver, bronze, iron, the list stands as it is in order. So God even gave it in order, not just in order of time. Gold, silver, bronze, iron, progressively from year to year to year. He also gave it in terms of value. Gold is more valuable than silver, more valuable than bronze, more valuable than iron. he also gave it in order of reactivity. What? The reactivity of the materials increases as we go lower. What do I mean by reactivity? Of those materials, right? Gold is important, not just because, gold shines and stuff, but gold, silver, bronze, iron. Gold is the least reactive of the four materials. What that means is when placed in or around other materials, gold is the least reactive, meaning gold is least likely to change. Silver, second, bronze, third, iron. Iron is the most reactive of the materials. What that means is iron can be broken down when it reacts with other materials. We all know iron rusts. Anybody ever had gold that rust? No. I mean, we have Sarah who's here. She does jewelry. And she will tell you some of the materials she will buy. And I remember this was an issue. She had to find materials that, even though it looks good, some of the material, it's very reactive. It does not last. It loses its luster and shine very quickly. So when we check that, gold, silver, bronze, iron. Gold is least reactive, iron is most reactive. Gold is most valuable, iron was least valuable of those materials. So the order might indicate the quality of empires and that the quality of the empires degrading as time passed. So while the market value of the materials in our real life would have been lower and lower as we go from gold to silver to bronze to iron, the value of the empire, the splendor and the greatness of the empires would have fallen too. At least that's how I will apply it to this. I did a search to compare these four empires. And I'll be honest, I didn't go checking their references because the AI overview of Google takes what websites would have given it. And I am not so concerned to find out the nitty-gritty details of Babylon, Persia, who it was, Babylon, Persia, I forget the middle one. Greece. How could I forget Greece? Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. But I will take the AI comparison. So what I'm giving you here for a little bit of it is an AI comparison of the three with my own input as well to help explain what we're reading. So Babylonian, Persian, Greek, and Roman empires differed significantly, and the AI compared them in political structures, cultural achievements, military strategies. All of them left lasting legacies. But their approach to governing their people, organizing their societies, and their growth and expansion varied greatly. In terms of political structures, Babylon was a monarchy. They had a king, and the king held political authority and religious authority. One king who was holding political and religious authority. Now, nowadays, people say, oh, that's terrible. That kind of leadership is awful. You'll see as we go along, our current leadership structure is the weakest. Hold on. Persia. Persia was also a monarchy. They had a king, but it had a strong centralized administration, which included appointed governors and a hierarchical system of power. So Persia had a king, but under him was several leaders or administrators, and they all had power as well. The hierarchical system would have contributed to the weaker empire that Daniel spoke of in verse 39 as we saw it here, because when Daniel was talking, another kingdom inferior to you. So he told Nebs, you are the head of gold. Nebs had political and religious authority as king over Babylon. Persia came after, inferior to Nebs, and a third which shall rule after. Now, he didn't call it inferior as the third one, but obviously, if he said the first kingdom was silver, The head of this image was fine gold. The second kingdom was silver. The next one was bronze, and the next one was iron. We notice, we watch it, and we can tell gold valuable, silver less valuable, bronze less valuable, iron less valuable, right? So we draw natural conclusions based on the allegorical use of the materials. Having more authority shared meant more opportunity for corruption or misinformation. That's why Persia was less than Babylon in terms of quality. Greece came, and it consisted of independent city-states, each with its own form of government, including democracy. Athens, the city of Athens, had democracy. Other cities might have had a monarchy, an oligarchy, or tyranny. Greece was an almost decentralized government of the people. But we know that in these kinds of situations, only the powerful people rule because they have control over the resources. This was weaker than the hierarchical system with a king that Persia had. Just like bronze was weaker or less valuable than silver in terms of value, bronze is less valuable than silver. Greece was less impressive, less splendor, had less splendor than Persia before it. Finally, the fourth one that we could see in history was Rome. Rome began as a republic. Rome had a senate and elected officials. But later, Rome evolved into an empire with an emperor and a more centralized government. This one moved away from power being spread out, but in their case, the power corrupted the one in charge. So even though they might have had a more centralized authority, which was good, that's what the Bible sees as valuable, the more centralized authority, which is not what modern life says, right? Modern people say, no, we want power in the hands of the people. Y'all, if we look at the people, we'll realize the people are quite foolish. People's decision making is generally poor. So power in the hands of the people, not a good idea. Centralized authority is always better as long as the authority is God himself or a human authority that actually follows God. But we can't trust the humans, I guess. Yeah. So different sources say different things about it. But in regards to Rome, Google AI said 16 out of 82 of their empires were assassinated. And Rome.us, another website, said 37 of the emperors were assassinated. The problem with that in terms of the numbers and so on is that Rome's as an empire, it was split at some point. All right, it's split in 395 AD. So the Rome.us might have included people who were assassinated after the empire split. Why I'm talking about the assassination is you're not a really good leader if your followers could kill you. That's to tell you how weak and low in value the Roman system was as far as God was concerned in God's evaluation. It's not my evaluation, friend. This is God's evaluation based on the dream he gave to Nebs way back in like 500 whatever BC. The emperors of Rome were men of vanity. Their rule was limited in scope and vision because their rule sought to please their own ego. Rome may have been destructive because we saw here, the fourth kingdom, strong as iron, iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. It was devastating. But Rome wasn't as great as the other three um, because it was inferior in terms of trade networks, philosophy, mathematics, science, the arts, military and technological advancements. Rome was inferior to those. Now, some people say, no, Rome was pretty good at that stuff. Rome was taking from previous cultures and using that. They didn't develop amazing things on their own. And what made Rome really poor was Rome was the only empire that was destroyed internally. Other empires required outside conquest, a stronger nation to come and destroy them. So we don't know how long they would have lasted on their own. Rome might have lasted a good while, but Rome was so weak. Number one, it split into two, Eastern and Western. And two, the Romans destroyed Rome. That's how weak it was. In terms of culture, Babylon was known for its advanced writing system, its legal codes, and impressive architecture. Persia developed sophisticated administration, standardized weights and measures, and they made significant contributions to architecture, art, and literature. Greece made advancements in philosophy, mathematics, science, literature, theater, and art. And they also pioneered democratic principles, which is seen as progressive. Still have issues with that. Rome developed a complex legal system. If that doesn't tell you they're worthless, I don't know what does. Rome developed advanced engineering for roads and aqueducts, movement of water, and contributed significantly, of course, to literature, architecture, and philosophy. In terms of military strategies and expansion, this is the last piece of the comparison. Babylon relied on a strong, well-disciplined army to expand its territory and maintain control. Persia employed a large, organized army with cavalry, mounted men, and archers, allowing them to conquer vast territory. Greece primarily relied on hoplite infantry, which were known for their discipline, their armor, and Greece developed naval power for trade and expansion. You control the oceans, you can control trade. Rome developed a highly disciplined professional army with a focus on siege warfare, which is machines built to destroy walls and get into cities that are blocked off. And logistical support was excellent for the Roman army. It allowed them to conquer and control a huge empire. So even though in some people's views, Rome might have been the most impressive, in God's eyes, Rome was the least valuable. In essence, Babylon focused on centralized authority and legal frameworks. Persia focused on efficient administration and vast expansion. Greece focused on diverse political systems, cultural innovation, and Rome focused on powerful military, centralized empire building. In the work that we're doing, we may face questions about the accuracy of the alignment of the materials with these empires and parts of the statues. Remember, head, chest, and shoulders, belly and thighs, legs of iron, right? But as we said before, the flow of the empires as they ruled over Israel, Babylon, then Persia, then Greece, and then finally Rome, of these four, that flow in terms of time, and these statues starting at head going down, that proves what we're saying here. There was no break between them. There's no break between them where a different empire ruled in between these groups. So this interpretation that we have, where each of the materials represent each of those empires, we're going strong with that. Now, in terms of the actual statue itself, the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay, partly of iron. It shall be a divided kingdom. And we read all of this last week. We see the feet mentioned in verse 33 first. Let me bring up 33. It's legs of iron. That's not what we're talking about here. It's feet, partly of iron and partly of clay. So we see the part iron, part clay feet, verse 33. And then we see it again mentioned in verses 41 to 43. Feet and toes, partly of clay and iron, divided kingdom. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron, partly clay. And 43, you saw the iron mixed with the soft clay. We've already established that the iron is the lowest value and most reactive element. So this kingdom will be dog cheap by comparison because it isn't even pure iron. Iron was the cheapest one of the first four. This one, the feet, is iron and clay. It's not even iron alone, so it's even cheap and cheaper. So we're going to venture into a short study on the use of clay to describe this empire. Every reference to the clay in the verses I identified, verses 33, 41, 42, and 43, those four verses, every reference in the original Hebrew, it's two words, hasap or bahasap. I need to show you all this. Get a quick jump to it. Right, Daniel 2:33. I'm going to move my view thing at the bottom. Right, Daniel 2:33. Clay here. Clay is hasap. Once again, this is what clay looks like. Hasap in Hebrew writing is that. I don't know how to read this. I haven't figured it out. Okay. Now, just pay attention to this number, 2635. This is Daniel 2:33, where we see clay mentioned. The other verses where clay is mentioned would be in Daniel 2:41, Hasap 2635. Where is the clay mentioned again? It is mentioned here again. Partly of just want to make sure I get right. Yeah, clay again. Here, same 2635, but this word, Hebrew word, bahasap. So this is hasap with a BA in front of it, and this one here, hasap by itself. So if we look at this, these kind of three letters with some dashes underneath, it should be the same three letters, but hasap, but this is bahasap. I'm not trying to read it. I'm just trying to show you it's difficult to read. That's 41. Let's go to 42. I'm showing you again. I'm just proving to you. Clay, first word, hasap. Okay? And going to 43, bahasap. Okay? And finally, clay again, haspa. This one's haspa, but it's the same 2635. All right, every time it's the same 2635 reference number in the Strong's Concordance. So when I choose that and I go, let me go to it, I'll open it in a new tab. I go to find what this word means, right? Because we go to the original language to see how contextually it could have been used. The root word is chasaf, right? So if I was pronouncing the first thing, it is not hasap, it is chasap. The root word chasaf. It means to strip, peel, make bare. What? But in the King James use and the New American use, in the biblical use, in Daniel 2, and you'll notice, by the way, all the references here, Daniel 2, Daniel 2, Daniel 2, Daniel 2, Daniel 2, okay? In the use, it's clay or pottery. It could be a clod. A clod would be a clump of clay. I know a lot of this might seem like, why are you telling us all of this? Just give us the final thing. No, I'm showing you this so that you can see I'm not making this stuff up. Real scholars, not me, real scholars put this stuff together so that people like us could have it easy. And I know this doesn't seem easy to do if you're going looking for this stuff. It's not easy to do, but it's way easier than whatever they did to find out that those scribbles meant hasap and that the root for hasap was chasaf. Okay? If we look at the ESV, all right, in verse 41 and 41 and 43, let me show you something here. Potter's clay, soft clay. 41 calls it soft clay. 43 also calls it soft clay. In verse 42, they said, partly iron, partly clay means the kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. So looking at it here in the ESV, we get that the clay is soft and it's brittle, indicating it's weak compared to the iron. Good? Now, as we check the original languages, I had to look to see why would they say soft clay here and soft clay here. And if you remember when we were looking at the original languages just now, bahasaf, I'm pronouncing that wrong. It should be bahasaf. Bahasap is where soft clay was. Every time we see soft clay here in the ESV, that's where they use bahasap in original. Okay, I went to check to see if soft clay was there or if it was just clay. And the word there is the same root, chasap. And that means soft clay was kind of like an addition by the ESV. There was no special meaning for verses 41 and 43 where we had bahasap. And when I checked all the different translations, I did check it to see if anybody else said soft clay. Check this out. Most of the translations didn't even say soft clay. King James, American Standard, English Revised Version. Those three call it miry clay. New King James Version called it ceramic clay. New American Standard, Legacy Bible, Amplified Bible called it common clay. The fact that these versions chose to add that little adjective, it means something. The little attention matters. Bahasap was not different from chasap, but it was. When I say it wasn't, it didn't carry an extra special meaning that changed the word. All right? What the BA at the start implied was that the clay, which we know to be weak, the BA was highlighting the weakness of the material. Some translators, like the King James, the ASV, ERV, ESV that we use here on screen, New King James, New American, Legacy, and Amplified, those versions, those translations, chose to highlight it by putting in the adjective soft clay, ceramic clay, common clay, miry clay. Other translations didn't, because they knew the obvious thing. When we're saying clay, it obviously means soft and brittle and weak and pathetic. So they didn't just bother to say it. So it's not like the Bible is different translations are contradicting. Somebody called it soft, somebody called it miry, somebody just called it clay. All the translations are saying the same thing. Some just chose to use the adjective to describe it for us in case we didn't catch on. Others were like, you're reading this, you should know clay is brittle and soft. There's a word for brittle or fragile used in verse 42. The kingdom of partly iron, partly clay, is partly strong and partly brittle. I looked for this brittle word because I'm looking for things that tell me about the clay so I could understand what he means by saying the feet and the toes are partly iron, partly clay. T-bar, that's the word for broken, brittle, fragile. It was used in verse 42, and it's a clear expression of the weakness of the clay. So when we see the partly iron, partly clay, the materials say a lot about the kingdom. Given that the kingdoms, the empires, are described by comparing them with the materials, we must accept that the last kingdom of men, the one represented by the feet, the last kingdom of men will be a mix of low and lower value character, iron and clay. Iron was low value, clay is lower value. It will be so fragile that if this were a real statue, it would not stand. Because I expect that if you had a statue, gold on top, silver, bronze, iron, and under all that, supporting it, iron and clay mixed, I don't think that statue would even stand. It would crumble and fall if it were a real thing. It wasn't, by the way, there's no way that statue was real. But if we did try to make a statue like that, engineers would watch this and be like, how you expect the statue to stand? It's not going to, right? So this bottom, this last kingdom of men, it's going to be terrible. Now, I'll be honest, I see this quality, lack of, in the world already. You see, we have a bunch of foolish people that are triggered today at the slightest things. People who just listen to get offended and find fault. So when you talk, if they're disagreeing with you, they're just listening. And they're only listening for one reason. Let me find fault. What are you saying wrong? What are you saying wrong? What are you saying wrong? To jump back on your case. We have a society of demon-possessed fools who will bark and make noises or throw tantrums in public when they face opposition. Some of you don't have a clue. Some of you think I am exaggerating, or those are just isolated incidents. Folks, right now, there are cities all over America where there are riots. Why are they rioting? Because illegal criminals are being kicked out of their country and their feelings are hurt. I'm not getting political, but I am saying there are people in America who are crying, blocking streets, looting, because criminals can't stay in America to rob, rape, and murder them. And these people who are rioting are they're the worst. What's bad about it in the news that's been reported? A lot of people are seeing reports of peaceful protests getting stormed by cops and riot police and the National Guard being called out. It was not peaceful. We're getting a lot of terribly reported news. And all over, it started in LA, of course. LA starts everything stupid. And a lot of these people who are rioting, they're protesting because they just feel sorry for the little guy. But guess what? The little guy doesn't have legal papers. He doesn't belong in that country. P.S. We might have the same problem in Trinidad. We need to get rid of them. The illegals, because they are a big part of crime. I have no problem if people come in legally, and if the ones who allow them in or whatever do some kind of background check so you don't just let any old trash in. We don't mind decent people coming in our country to work. That's fine. America has the same issue, except they have it on a much larger scale. It's happening in Europe too, you know. Immigrant populations are destroying countries. I have nothing against immigrants per se, but when immigrants want to go in and stink up a country by trying to do crimes and make crimes okay, or target the locals for crime, that's just wrong, y'all. These same people who are rioting in America, their spirits will be the foundation that we're seeing as clay in this picture. When I say spirits here, I don't mean mystical spirits like roaming the night. I mean their attitudes. The attitudes of these people will create a society that is weak and brittle and soft like clay. The iron in that, the mix of iron and clay, partly iron, partly clay, the iron there will mean that their system and their society will appear to be strong like the Roman society, but it will just be a resemblance. You see, as weak as Rome was in comparison to the splendor of the previous three, this kingdom, partly iron, partly clay, will be worse. It'll be a situation similar to what we see today on a micro scale. And here's this one. There are people today who mimic things that higher class people do, and they do it to appear as if they are part of the upper class in society. But these same people who are trying to fit in with upper class society, they hold on to gutter trash attitudes. They don't let go of the gutter trash attitude that they had. For example, we might have a person going out to do fancy things, right? Like even in Trinidad, it's not a common thing for regular people to play golf, right? So they might go and play golf. They might go to watch like ballet or opera. So, I'm with the opera society now. I'm better than everybody else. I'm not against people who listen to opera and that kind of stuff. That's your business. That's what you like. Go strong. But I'm talking about the wannabes who try to fit in by doing those things. So, they'll be boasting, yes, we went to the opera last weekend and we have a yacht and that kind of stuff. These kinds of people will do these activities to appear to be rich and appear to be high class, top society level people. But their first resort is always going to be to curse and fight if their doubles didn't taste good or if their roti wrap wasn't full of meat or whatever. They'll be the ones to go and boast, yeah, pelt them with the roti because it was so bad. Dude, if you have class, you don't respond to stuff like that. But this gutter trash mentality, that's how they are. So we see instances of people like that, and that's the kind of creature that's going to make up the partly clay and partly iron empire. This kingdom will be large because, as we know, here's one, the first horseman of the apocalypse is going to ride out and he's going to conquer in apparent peace. So all those people out there, we are the world, we are the children, one world, new world order, all of those people will be in their abominable rainbow glee. Or it could be anti-rainbow glee, because if the rainbow people happen to be Babylon, the prostitute, the beast is going to turn on Babylon, the prostitute. So keep that as a serious consideration. Verse 42 and 43 describe the iron and clay as married. So check it out. As the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly brittle. As you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage. But they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. This is why, and when I read that and I was doing this work today, I believe, there's a little bit of speculation here, the iron and clay being described as married and mixed, but not holding together, right? Iron mixed with clay. Partly strong, partly brittle. Iron mixed with clay. They will mix in marriage, but they will not hold together. Meaning they're not going to bind. Like cement binds bricks. You're more likely to break a piece of a brick off than to separate two bricks bound by cement. This partly iron, partly clay. You don't have no cement to join the clay and the iron. They will not bond. It may be describing the union of Babylon, the prostitute, and the beast kingdom, where the beast will turn on Babylon. Let me show you Revelation 17. Revelation 17, right? This talks about Babylon the prostitute and the beast. And an angel is going to show John. The angel carried John away in the wilderness, and he saw a woman on a scarlet beast. The woman is Babylon, sitting on the beast. The beast system is going to prop Babylon. Effectively, the beast system is going to use the prostitute Babylon to attract, to draw in. Babylon is going to be disgusting, don't get me wrong, because the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people. So Babylon's going to be murderous. She's not going to be a harmless prostitute. She's going to be disgusting. But in the same chapter, check out verse 16. The beast, because remember the beast has 10 horns. Let me just point that out here. She was sitting on a scarlet beast, was covered with blasphemous names. The beast had blasphemous names, and the beast had 7 heads and 10 horns. We know that the 10 horns are 10 kings from previous study. An angel said so in the Bible. We don't have to guess. The beast, the whole system, the Antichrist himself as well, and the 10 horns that you saw will hate the prostitute. So while the beast will be supporting and propping up the prostitute as like the front for its system, and the prostitute will be the one getting all the attention to draw people in, fool them, and indulge them in corrupt behavior, the beast and the 10 horns, or the 10 kings of the beast, will hate the prostitute. These 10 kings are going to give their power to the Antichrist. They will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose, God's purpose, by agreeing to hand over to the beast their royal authority. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. This great city, not likely to be a literal city, okay? We have to do a study of Babylon properly. But Babylon is going to be destroyed by the very beast that props it up, which is why, as I was looking here, and I saw that they will not hold together, I am suspecting, I'm not certain, but I suspect, because the iron and the clay don't mix, the iron and the clay represent the beast and Babylon. By Babylon here, I don't mean Babylon the gold head, I mean Babylon the prostitute. Babylon the prostitute, we still have to do a proper study on that, but it's likely to be some system of beliefs that goes after the Christians. Whether it's the rainbow people, the alphabet people that is, or it is something worse than them, or it is the Abrahamic, what it was? I can't remember the Abrahamic thing I spoke about that's in Dubai. Is it Dubai or Abu Dhabi? One of those places where they have the mosque and the church. They have a mosque, a church, and a Jewish temple, so that the Abrahamic religions could get together, right?
Abrahamic Accord.
No, not the Abrahamic Accord, because the Abrahamic Accord is the Abraham Accord of Israel.
Yeah. All right.
Right? That's the Israelite thing that Trump did in his last thing, right? That's not the Abraham Accord. It's the Abrahamic house or something like that. Yo, let me just get the correct name
Yeah.
since
I came
Abrahamic
across
family
that
house.
term.
All right. So the accurate name, just because my memory ain't all that, Abrahamic family house.
Uh,
It could be something like this,
yeah.
right? What country is this in? About us. Oh wait, no. This is. Oh yeah, this is it. This is it. I wish it would show me what country. Three houses of worship. Abu Dhabi in the UAE. In Abu Dhabi, we find this Abrahamic family house, which is where there are three structures. One, I guess this is two, this is three. Three structures, three houses of worship to show unification of the Abrahamic religions: Islam, Judaism, Christianity. If Babylon is going to be something out of this, or if it's going to be something out of the alphabet people and their homosexual agenda, or it's going to be something completely different, none of these at all, does not matter. Babylon is going to be something religious like, and it will indulge people in wickedness like a prostitute. And the beast system will support it, support it, support it until the beast gets big enough and strong enough on its own. It will destroy Babylon, as we saw in Revelation 17:16. The 10 kings will turn on Babylon. And it's most likely going to be that while in, oh yeah, something here in chapter 18, lament over fallen Babylon. Another angel coming down from heaven, he shouted, "Fallen is Babylon the Great." And he talks about it. Threefold woe over Babylon's fall. We really have to do a study on Babylon. And the kings, they wept and mourned over her. And they will talk and they will cry, "Oh, woe to you, great city." And they'll be so sad. Babylon is gone. Babylon is gone. Babylon is gone. When the beast system turns on Babylon, though, people will also like, there must be people here that will be like, yep, it's a good thing, because they'll turn to the beast system wholly, which will probably be around the time the beast declares himself as God. All of these are speculations here at this point, but I am suggesting that the fact that iron not mixing with clay and not holding together, the iron and the clay would be the beast system and Babylon. They will not mix because the beast system is going to support Babylon for a while. And when they're all big and they're in control, turn on Babylon. 10 kings will destroy and really badly destroy Babylon. And people will mourn for Babylon because Babylon was a fun thing. Everybody, like Trinidad today, how our people are so much into having fun and having a good time. Whatever they call a good time, it's not a good time. It's sad. It's depressing when you consider that people think they're enjoying themselves while killing themselves. Not going to go there. We have to talk about the rock that destroys, and I'm going to leave that for the next time. I'm not going into it in detail here. We're stopping here with partly iron, partly clay mixed feet. There's a little more I have to talk about the feet. The fact that the feet have 10 toes, right? The feet have 10 toes. Remember our good friend, the beast, out of the sea. He has 10 horns. Let's go. Revelation 13. Beast out of the sea again. All right, Miss Kimberly just messaged. Have a good night, Miss Kimberly. Take care. She has to leave. So she said good night to everyone. A beast out of the sea. It had 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 crowns on the horns. The statue of Nebuchadnezzar. The feet and toes. We see it here mentioned. The feet and toes. And as the toes of the feet were partly iron, partly clay, 10 toes, 10 horns. Unlikely that's a coincidence. So the beast system and these feet, this final human empire, same thing. I'm stopping right there. I'm just trying to highlight something on my doc. All right, so to everybody who's watching this live, thank you very much for being here to support. We lost a couple of people as internet issues, and then, well, Miss Kimberly had to leave. For everybody looking at this on YouTube and or Facebook, we thank you greatly for being here, for sharing this time with us. This was 40 Days Documented Session number 208. Nebuchadnezzar's Dream Part 2, studying Daniel 2, with references in other verses. Of course, Scripture interprets Scripture. Thank you for joining us here. We recorded this on June 13th, 2025. God willing, we'll be here for Nebuchadnezzar's Dream Part 3, and we'll do that next week if God allows. Have a good night. Thank you very much for being here and sharing your time. Goodbye.